This is the history of former members of Commission separated from the group to focus on their solo careers and producing their solo careers. Well, let's find out what happened. Over the past many years. Keith Staton, Michael Brooks, Fred Hammond, Marvin Sapp, Maxx Frank, Montrell Darrett, and Marcus Cole has decided to be separated from Commission to focus on their successful solo careers, and musicians produces other artists' solo careers and other productions between 1990s and 2000s. In 1990, Keith decided to go with Michael Brooks to sign a solo deal after they left due to some issues with Commission. Michael Brooks produces Keith Staton's first record called From the Heart was released in 1990, also features Commission and Fred Hammond and choir background vocals. In 1991, Maxx Frank produces Fred Hammond's first record called I Am Persuaded was released in 91 Benson Records. Also features new member of Commission Marvin Sapp and the Winans family with Michael and Regina Winans and choir background vocals. Michael Winans was also still singing from the Winans at the time. In 93, Maxx Frank produces Fred Hammond's second record called Deliverance was released in 93 with choir background vocals. And also before Fred and Mike Williams left Commission a year later in 94. Fast forward 2 years later. Michael Brooks features two members of Commission Max and Mitchell came together to produce his Keith Staton's second studio album called No Greater Love, was released in 95 with choir background vocals and also features background vocal Mitchell Jones from Commission. In 95. After Keith and Fred left Commission 4 years apart due to some issues with the group, Fred and Keith reunited without Commission. Fred Hammond's Radical for Christ first album was Praise in the House, released in 1995. The album featured arrangements of Hosanna music songs in a black gospel urban style and included contributions from Keith Staton, who was also a member of the group. Here are the key details. First album, Praise in the House. Year of release, 1995. Key members featured, Fred Hammond and Keith Staton. Key feature, the album featured arrangements of popular Hosanna music songs by Fred Hammond, transforming them into black gospel urban arrangements. On Benson Records and also FH Face-to-Face Productions. Fred Hammond's album The Inner Court was released by Benson Music Group in 1995. It is an album from his period with his group, Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ, and features a collection of gospel music. Key details. Artist, Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ. Album title, The Inner Court. Release date, 1995. Label, Benson Music Group. Genre, Gospel. In 96. After Brooks left Keith Staton, Mike Brooks released his solo album called Choice to Rejoice in 96. Michael Brooks and the Nation. Choice to Rejoice refers to a 1996 Christian music album by Michael Brooks and the Nation, titled Choice to Rejoice, which features contemporary Christian and gospel music. The album was released by CGI and is available on various platforms like eBay and Amazon, with a tracklist available on Discogs. Album details. Artist, Michael Brooks and the Nation. Features Park Stewart reunited and also features other gospel artists like Dietrich Haddon and William Murphy. Title, Choice to Rejoice. Year, 1996. Genre, Contemporary Christian, Gospel. The album Shake in the House. Live in L.A. by Hezekiah Walker, Yolanda Adams, and Fred Hammond was released in 1996. It was recorded live in Los Angeles, California, and features Fred Hammond with his group Radical for Christ, as well as Yolanda Adams and Hezekiah Walker and the Love Fellowship Crusade Choir. Key details. Title, Shake in the House. Live in L.A. Artist S, Hezekiah Walker, Yolanda Adams and Fred Hammond. Release year, 1996. Label, Benson Music Group. Format, originally released on CD and cassette, and later a DVD was also made available. Genre, Gospel, Funk/Soul. Location, recorded live in Los Angeles, California. A little later, after Marvin and Max left Commission, due to some issues with the group. After 5 years replacing Keith and Mike Brooks, Marvin and Fred reunited without Commission. Marvin Sapp released his self-titled debut solo album, Marvin Sapp, in March 1996. The album, produced by Fred Hammond and Percy Beatty under the Word Epic record label, included notable tracks such as Rain Jesus Rain and Faithful. Key details. Album title, Marvin Sapp. Release date, March 12, 1996. Label, Word/Epic. Producers, Fred Hammond, Percy Beatty and also Fred Hammond Face-to-Face Productions. Maxx Frank was not producing on Marvin's first record at the time after they were separated from each other and from the group also. Genre, Gospel, R&B. Fast forward. Fred Hammond's album The Spirit of David was released on August 20, 1996, by Benson Records and features Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ. The album is considered a staple in the gospel music genre and includes songs such as I Am Persuaded. Key details: Artist, Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ. Album title, The Spirit of David. Release date, August 20, 1996. Label, Benson Records. Genre, Gospel. Fast forward. Keith Staton releases his third album, Worship in the House, was released by Word Records alongside Epic Records on November 5, 1996, and this album placed on the Billboard magazine Christian Albums chart at number 29. And also produces by Fred Hammond Face to Face Productions. Fast forward. The self-titled gospel album Virtue by the group, Virtue was released on April 29, 1997, by Verity Records. It was the first album for the group and featured hits like Greatest Part of Me and Let the Redeemed. More details about the album. Artist, Virtue. Album title, Virtue. Release date, April 29, 1997. Label, Verity Records. Genre, Contemporary Gospel, R&B/Swing. Produces by two members of Commissioned, Mitchell Jones and Montrell Darrett. Fast forward later on in 98. Fred Hammond and RFC Pages refers to Fred Hammond's 1998 releases double platinum album Pages of Life, Chapters I and II, recorded with his gospel choir, Radical for Christ, RFC. You can find the album's track list and lyrics on Genius, stream it on Spotify, and find more information on Wikipedia and the official Fred Hammond website. Key details about the album. Title, Pages of Life, Chapters I and II. Artist, Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ. Release date, April 28, 1998. Significance, it was a double platinum album for Fred Hammond after he left the group Commissioned, before Marvin Sapp left the group 2 years later. Fast forward. Keith Staton releases his latest fourth album, Glory in the House, was released on April 20, 1999, by the aforementioned record labels, and this time around the album charted on the Gospel Albums chart at number 17. And also produces by Fred Hammond Face to Face Productions. And also, Marvin Sapp Nothing Else Matters, his third studio album, was released in '99 with one of the title song is called More and More, which was produced by Fred Hammond, David P.I.V. and Tommy Walker. And later, in '99, after Montrell Darrett left Commission due to some issues with the group, and also, the new member of the group Marcus Cole joined the group to replace Marvin Sapp in just 2 years after Darrett replaces Fred Hammond between in '95 and '97. Darrett releases his first solo album, called Chronicles of the Soul. The album hit number 23 on the Billboard Top Gospel Albums chart. A year later in 2000. Fred Hammond's 2000 album release was Purpose by Design, released on March 21, 2000, by Verity Records and featuring his group Radical for Christ. The album was a number 1 hit on the Billboard Gospel Album chart and received a Dove Award for Best Contemporary Gospel Album. Here's more information about the album. Artist, Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ. Album title, Purpose by Design. Release date, March 21, 2000. Label, Verity Records. Fast forward. The album Fred Hammond Presents, in case you missed it. And Then Some was released in 2001 by various artists, with Fred Hammond serving as the producer and host. The album is a compilation of gospel songs and was released under Verity Records, which is a subsidiary of Zomba Recording LLC. Here's a more detailed breakdown of the album's release and content. Release date, March 6, 2001. Artist, various artists. Producer, Fred Hammond. Genre, funk/soul, gospel, Christian. Label, F. Hammond Music, Verity Gospel Music Group, and Zomba. Format, CD. The album features numerous tracks from different artists, including Charles Laster, Love You with the Rest of My Life. Jonathan Dunn, My Deliverer. Pampkinion M. Donald, I Anoint Myself. Keith Staton, Let Me Tell It. Tiffany Palmer, When Jesus Sings. Joanne Rosario, More, More, More. Shay Norman, My Heart Depends on You. Resurrection, A Life That Shows. Fred Hammond and RFC Keith Staton, a new member of Commission Marcus Cole, Who Do Men Say I Am. Fast forward in 2002. Fred Hammond Presents Joanne Rosario refers to Fred Hammond's support and presentation of gospel singer Joanne Rosario's solo music career, beginning with her debut album More, More, More 2002. Hammond helped launch Rosario's career after she was a member of his band, Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ, and her music from this period, such as the album Joy's Salvation 2007, continues to blend traditional gospel with contemporary styles. Key details. Career launch. Fred Hammond was instrumental in launching Joanne Rosario's solo career, which began in 2001 with her debut album More in 2002. And also features new member of Commissioned, Marcus Cole. Him and Fred was producing her solo album. Musical style. Rosario is known for combining traditional gospel with contemporary sounds, including hip-hop, neo-soul, and Latin influences. 4 years later after Marcus Cole left Commissioned, he releases his second studio album, Write My Song, was released in August 2006, from Pure Springs Gospel. This album was his breakthrough release upon the Billboard magazine charts, while it placed on the Gospel Albums chart, where it peaked at number 34. Fast forward. Just 11 years later after leaving Commissioned in '96. Maxx Frank has decided to produce Yolanda Adams's 2007 album, What a Wonderful Time, alongside Michael J. Powell and other producers. This album was Adams's second Christmas album, and featured a mix of gospel and contemporary gospel music. Artist, Yolanda Adams. Album, What a Wonderful Time. Year, 2007. Producer, Maxx Frank, Michael J. Powell, and others. Genre, gospel and contemporary gospel. Fast forward 15 years later. Keith Statton's single Excited was released on October 14, 2022. The song is available on all music platforms, and was produced by Marcus Cole. Here are some key details about the single. Title, Excited. Artist, Keith Statton. Release date, October 14, 2022. Producer, Marcus Cole. Writers, Christian Dentley, Marcus Cole, and Keith Statton. Fast forward almost 2 years later. Fred Hammond, Keith Statton, and Marcus Cole released the album Time Capsule, the trilogy, as the group FK&M on August 30, 2024. The project is a 3-part series of songs, with the first part released in August 2024, and further episodes planned for the future, including one anticipated in the coming months. Album details. Artists, FK&M, Fred Hammond, Keith Statton, and Marcus Cole. Album title, Time Capsule, the trilogy. Release date, August 30, 2024. Label, 3 Brothers/Dare Records. If you want to learn more details about what happened with former members of Commissioned, Brothers has separated from the group to pursue their solo careers. Learn more to find out on the website or their interviews as well. That's all that I have for today. God bless you.